Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Notary Titans. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. We do this show every Tuesday morning with our co-host, Carol Ray, founder of Notary to Pro. Carol, welcome.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Carol. What are you excited about this week?
Well, actually, what you guys were just talking about, the problem with me is I'm on the other end of the signings. When my graduates are busy, I'm catatonic by the time I go to bed at night because I spend the entire day answering two phones, at one. And boy, they have been busy this last week, which is very exciting.
It is. Totally agree with you. And then our second co-host, Laura Biewer, founder of CoachMeLaura.com and at My Service Mobile Notary. Laura, how's it going today?
It is going fabulously. And one, like everybody else, I am busy. And I do general notary work mostly, but that is busy. I mean, it's not just loan signing busy. It's like everybody is busy, crazy busy. And I have exciting stuff to talk about too. Should I go ahead and talk about that, Bill?
Yeah, heck yeah, that's exciting.
Heck yeah. So if you have not already seen either a Facebook posting or an email, I'm announcing that I have a replay library of all of the trainings that I have created and delivered in 2019 in collaboration with Bill. And we've put it all in one place where you can get all of it, access 24/7, whenever you need it, as many times as you need it. And that replay library is now available. And so it's out there. If you didn't hear about it, now you heard it here. But you might have heard it before. And I'm really excited because I have 2 more in development that will be added before the end of the year. So this is going to continue to grow as I have new training available to help people get into some of this general notary work. And in addition to that, for those who do purchase that library, I have a Facebook group for general notary work. So that is connected. So if you buy that replay library, participate in that Facebook group, because that's where you'll be able to find other notaries who are trying to either add general notary work or that's what they want to do, focus on. And we'll have a lot more emphasis on that. And where can you find the work? What kind of work can you find? How do you do it? All of that will be discussed in that group. So it may be something you want to check into.
I love it, Laura. I'm real excited to be a part of it. So I'm so grateful for that. Carol, I'm so grateful that you even connected us to Laura. It's been almost a year since we connected, and I love what we're doing, Laura, and I love what you've put together here and focusing on the general notary work. The Laura Biewer Presents library is literally like having a notary in your pocket. So if you ever got the living trust appointment and you needed a refresher, you could jump in there and take a look at it. You get lifetime access anytime you want, regardless of whether you're a Sign and Thrive member or any other kind of member. You will always have access to that course. So I posted a link in the chat window. And it's the Facebook group, guys, is by the same name as well. It's Laura Biewer Presents Embracing General Notary Work. But you do have to be you have to buy the Laura Biewer Presents library, and you'll get an invite link to that private Facebook group.
And I'd like to add something to
please.
this, if I may.
Yeah.
I love Laura. She is such a wonderful person. Personally, she's generous. She's willing to share with people. She has so much knowledge. She's my go-to person. I mean, I think I'm kind of smart and I know a little bit, but when I really get stuck, Laura, help me out here.
I do the same thing. I love it.
It's such an inexpensive resource that I think everybody should take advantage of that, because you're right. It's like having, somebody in your pocket that has real expertise. And I really, really want to push my graduates and students to sign up for this. This is a great resource. So thank you both for presenting this.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely my pleasure for sure. And then guys, that leaves to me, I'm super excited about how busy it is. Before we started recording, I said this is the busiest I've ever seen it as a loan signing agent. And I've been through some nice refinance booms, But this, the beginning of this month was really kind of weird. I know some people were really busy. Some people, it was super slow for the first couple of weeks, and now it's crazy. Laura, I love how excited your cat is about the Laura Biewer Presents Library. She just can't stop talking about it. I'd love it. But guys, this is a great time to be in the market. And there's a couple of things to remember here is, number one, make yourself available to as many opportunities as possible and be ready for yes, because they are coming and they're coming fast. But then the other thing is, when we're in a market that's this busy, you can't forget to work on your business, not just in your business. It's not always going to be like this. There are going to be lulls that you may have experienced in the beginning of the month. So you got to keep up with your top of mind work, stay in touch, send your cards, send your emails, and keep that momentum going. All right, guys, we have so many questions.
Yeah.
Laura, like I've been up since, like 4:30 this morning, but I spent a good chunk of that adding more questions that I got behind on from over the weekend when I sent out the request. So we've got a ton of them in here.
Bill,
yeah.
Is there something I could bring up very quickly before we get into the questions? I think it's something that it's very important for people to know.
Is there a story involved? I'd love to hear it.
Well, kind of, but no, not really. No, the problem is, and I'm sure we all face it, I know Laura does, and I'm sure you do, I get so many emails from my students and from other notaries, and a lot of times I just want to call them up. It's faster for me. I like the idea that I can call on a phone and talk to somebody I've never talked to before, or be able to spend a few minutes with a student. The problem is that when I get emails and there's no phone number on it, there's no contact information, it's just from Shirley. Okay, so who are you? If you are a notary, you need to restructure your outgoing emails. Mm-hmm. You need to set your signature so that you have certain information. You have your full name, for one thing, and you have your phone number. You don't have to put your location or address, but there's things that you need to have on your email. And the most important thing of all is having a phone number so that people can contact you. Because without that, you're sending out to companies. They don't know where to call you. It's just not right. I've been posting with my groups and stuff that this is something you need to really spend some time on your outgoing emails to make sure that they have the information, people can get a hold of you easily.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Carol, and I'm really glad you brought it up. If you're going to take this business seriously and you're going to be a professional, you need to be a professional. And part of that is having an email signature. But the other side of that too, Carol, I know you'll appreciate this as well, I know Laura does too, is no matter what hurry you are in, the person that is receiving that is not in the same place as you. So warm it up. Take the time for a proper greeting. Warm it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a paragraph. But warm it up a little bit. Say, hey, I hope you're having a great day. Here's this challenge I have. Can you help me? Or here's this. Would you be willing to help me with this? These little one line, sometimes I have to go through the email and see who it was actually sent to, because the emails are not professional emails either. So I've got Hot Mama 412 at Hotmail responding to my email. I don't know who that is. So there's a whole other level of professionalism with any type of your communication on that. So that's a really good point. Glad you brought it up. I also want to talk about the question that is just popped up in the chat window and some of the correspondence there about why yesterday was the last day for refinances on that. So if you guys don't mind, do you mind if I touch base on that? Or Carol, you want to jump in there?
No, go ahead.
So on most refinances for primary residences, there's the mandatory 3-day right to cancel. So if somebody were to sign on Monday, they have Tuesday, Wednesday until midnight on Thursday to cancel, and then the loan would fund on Friday. So and the 31st of this month is on Saturday. So if they want to close this month, they would have had to have signed yesterday in most cases. Remember, there's always an exception to that rescission rule too. So the reason that Saturday isn't the last day for refinances is because most lenders don't fund on Saturdays. So that's the general rule around that. That does not mean that you're not going to get refinances today, tomorrow, Thursday or Friday, or even Saturday. It just means that those are going to close now in September instead of August. Make sense?
Do you want to talk about why people push to get by the done by the end of the month?
Yeah, go ahead, Carol. I'll let you take that one. It blows my mind.
It has a lot to do with commissions. They used to drive us nuts. It was the biggest deal in the world if you couldn't close by the end of the month so that the loan officers could get paid. Really, that's what it came down to. They would push you until you fell off the ends of the earth. It didn't matter. They wanted it closed by the last day, because then otherwise they have to wait a whole month for commissions.
Yep. It's weird, but I think that's the biggest driving factor. The other factor is prepaid interest. So people don't want to pay the prepaid interest by signing and closing earlier in the month. It doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense because no matter what, you're going to end up paying it. So that's part of the illogical part of this business or this industry.
You want to tell people how to back up, how to start at the last day for funding, and then they can back up and figure their rescission dates too?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, well, basically, if we're funding, the last day to fund for this month is Friday, which is the 30th?
30th, yeah.
Yeah, the 30th. So what you do when you're figuring your rescission dates and making sure it can fund then is that you have to back it up to what the last day of the rescission would be, which would be Thursday, the 29th, and then you can go 28, 27, 26. So you know that the rescission date has to start on the 25th, right?
That sounds like a whole lot of math, Carol. I am not good at math. So
it was always easy for me when I had to back it up. It was just easier than trying to take it forward. Just what's the last day it can fund, and then you just back it up. And you know that you can't have a rescission date past the third day forward.
I just Googled and I still do this. If there's any question, I just Google the NNA's rescission calendar and I look at it, because there are some federal holidays that count in that. There's some that not. Sometimes you forget that Sundays don't count. Sometimes you forget that Saturdays do. So I just like to see it just to make sure, because that can be one of those things that can really jam up a transaction if we get it wrong.
One year, that calendar was wrong.
Oh, no. Really?
It was wrong. It was years ago, and I don't know if you remember, Laura, but that was wrong. And it was over, I think, July the 4th.
Oh.
And it threw everybody off.
Oh, because it happens.
Laura, you're on mute.
Oh, yeah, you're on mute, Laura. Here, let me see if I can unmute her. There you go. Hold on. I can't unmute you. Sorry.
Hold on.
There you go.
There you go.
In any case, yes, it was a holiday weekend. It was quite a few years ago when that happened. And the information, when it had been collected, somebody had gotten a piece of that information and it just didn't get vetted right. And since then, they put in several different layers of vetting to make sure that rescission calendar is 100% right, because NNA knows everybody's relying on it.
Well, I had my own way of figuring rescission back then. And I posted on Notary Rotary on the forum when I used to be on it. And I said, no, it's wrong. It's wrong. You better make sure you've got the right date. And everybody's, no, this has got to be perfect. You're wrong. And I wasn't. And it was really bad. It was bad.
Yeah, that would be confusing.
That's good. Just trust yourself. When you know what you're doing, tune out the noise out there and listen to yourself. First, you have to know what you're doing, and then you can listen to yourself.
Yeah, good advice.
Love it. All right, let's jump into these questions. There's so many good ones here. Can you guys, are you seeing the screen now? Okay.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to use two screens, and I'm not really good at this. There we go. Okay. So from Jerry. Oh, this is the one that we had to stop on last week here. Oh, All right. Why do signing agents or even lenders, or signing agencies, I think is the question, or even lenders give us NSAs time constraints to complete the signing process within 1 hour? My instructions say that this is the lender's mandate and our fees may be impacted if we do not comply. Laura, do you have an opinion on that one?
I do, and I actually saw two different, I saw Jerry at my meetup, and I got to see two different instructions. One was 90 minutes, one was an hour. And so we talked about it. And of course, my first thought was that they want you to report status by that time, because they're thinking most people might be done at that time and remind you to do that. It doesn't mean that you had to be finished at that time, but you had to reach out and report status. The other one looked like it was not just status, that they actually expected you to report that you were done. And these are signing companies that are not little guys. I mean, they're out there doing, with a lot of work. It's the first time I've ever seen it. And so I do know that there are signing agents that cannot, because of the size of the package, because the borrowers want to read everything, because, I mean, there's just lots of issues that can cause you to not be able to be done in that time frame. And my recommendation is that you report status. If you took the job and it says to do it, then report status and then keep going. And that's all you can do. I don't see that as a pattern. I thought it was interesting. I'd never seen it before.
Interesting. I think that would personally drive me nuts. It feels like micromanagement. But the thing that we have to keep in mind too is that a lot of the rules that are in place and a lot of the timidity with escrow officers to even hire signing agents sometimes is because they've been let down in the past. Right. There have been mobile notaries and loan signing agents that didn't perform or just don't show up sometimes. And sometimes the borrower doesn't even communicate that until the next day. They're just like, they're fed up too. They've been through a process as well. So you've got this kind of convoluence of different stuff happening. So I love the suggestion, Laura, where it's really just communication. Just communicate what's going on, and that's really the best you can do. We never, ever, ever want to rush somebody in a signing. We never want to say, you've got 90 minutes or I'm approaching our time's up. You're not a shrink, right? It's not, we'll catch this next session. They get the right to set the pace on that signing. If they're going to read things, there's no way you're finishing in 90 minutes or 60 minutes even.
Exactly. And the other thing I want to mention about this is that these were buried with a bunch of other instructions, which are boilerplate, become boilerplate, which means it's on there, but you're doing a signing on Friday night and it's 8:00. Nobody's going to get the call at the other end. And you're thinking, what the hell?
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's a boilerplate instruction. So keep that in mind when you see that on something that's outside of business hours.
Great point. Carol, anything to add on that one?
No, I think you both covered it fine.
Beautiful. Valerie says, I'm interested in how those who use electronic journals capture signatures. Signatures are not required in Texas, but are a best practice for CYA. Anybody have any feedback on that? I don't use an electronic journal, so I don't know.
Well, California, although an electronic journal could be used, there are none approved, meaning there are none that provide a thumbprint, which is still required today in California. So we can't even use the e-journals that are out there right now. But what I have seen at conferences is they use one of those little pen deals to do that. Or it's actually allows you to keystroke it in. Nice.
Just like the typical electronic signature stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And if anybody has any other suggestions or doing something different, type it in the chat window there too.
Right.
From Janet, when accepting jobs from signing services, do I accept them and then negotiate the fee, or do I not accept them unless the fee is acceptable? Carol, what do you think on this one?
If you're going to accept the job, you accept the fee. If you're going to negotiate before you accept the job, then you try to negotiate for a higher fee, but you can't accept it and then change it in midstream. It's not fair.
I totally agree. It's out of integrity unless the situation changes, right? Like you accept it because it was at this one address and this was the fee, and then they change the address and it's 30 miles further, then you have some room there. But once a deal's a deal until somebody renegotiates.
And I've thought about working on something for my graduates anyway, of some sort of an acceptance. I've been trying to put something together. When you accept a document, you put certain limitations on it. When you accept a signing, like for instance, I've accepted the signing. I expect that there to be under 150 documents. I expect that there will be X amount of people at the table. I expect that I will be going to this location and not going to a second location to drop off docs or sign somebody else who didn't show up. I mean, there's certain limitations, I think, that should be placed when we accept a signing, because it's too many times when we see that you accept a signing thinking it's 150, 160 pages, and you get something and it's got 280 pages,
Right.
and you're printing twice.
Yeah.
I'm working on something like that. I don't know if it'll work or if anybody will pay any attention or accept it, but it just seems to me that the contract goes two ways.
Yeah, I like that. It's, an interesting concept for sure. I can't wait to see where you go with it. I love the idea of setting expectations. It's just a letter of understanding kind of
Right.
between the two parties. I love that. And then I also want to just delineate that we're talking more about signing companies with that. When it comes to your escrow clients that you have relationships with, that dynamic is a lot different and the communication can be a lot different before, during, and after on those two. All right, excellent. Let's see. Sylvie says, a few questions. I can't even read. Okay, number one, I thought I was clear on this a while back, but far from it. Can you clarify again the definition of oath versus jurat? From what I recently gathered, it may be the oath is verbal only and the jurat is verbal and written. Laura, I'm going to let you take that one.
Okay, that is just, I cannot tell you how great a question that is, because in the States, even where there's training, it's glossed over because it's all about, teaching to the test. So I want to share with you that oath is its own notarial act in its own right, and I'll give you a couple of examples, versus the jurat. And the jurat is always about a written statement. Think of it as like an affidavit. There's something they filled out or wrote out, they're signing it, and now they're swearing to the truthfulness or accuracy of the written word, of the written statements. An oath by itself, for instance, if I took an oath before giving testimony, do I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? That would be an example of an oath, and there isn't anything written on paper. If you're doing that, say, for a telephonic appointment for a court, meaning you show up, you're with the client, but the client is by telephone to the court, that would be an example of you're giving an oath. And if you're maintaining a journal, you would have a journal entry. That would be the only record on your end. Of course, the stenographer or court reporter on the other end would be getting the other evidence. When you take your oath of office, that's an unusual one because there is a document that's submitted typically to a government agency like a county clerk that proves you took that oath. But it is an oath. It is not a jurat. And so one last thing is that you may see at the beginning of a document, signer so-and-so, after being duly sworn, said, blah, 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 blah. And then you don't see any notary wording at the bottom, just a place to sign and stamp. Well, what's happened is that they have the oath that they had to say out loud. They said this, that, the other thing. That becomes the oath wording and your certificate. And you can just sign and stamp that because everything was within what the statement was. And then the jurat that subscribed and sworn before me is a phrase that is used for a jurat for almost all 50 states. Use that same language. Even California uses that language, even though we have other language besides it. So when I'm looking at my certificate on a document, most of the time it's going to be a jurat. The only time I have a document that's an oath is where the oath is buried somewhere in the statement that they made. And then there's nothing else. And it takes a case-by-case examination of what's being asked of you to evaluate which would be right. So I hope that's a little more clear.
That really spelled it out. That was awesome, Laura. That was like a little skill builder all on its own. I loved it. Larry asked a question about how do you handle a refusal to take an oath, even if the word affirm is used. He says that he usually calls to get some instruction on it and ends up just stopping the closing.
So, of course, as you mentioned, they can affirm the accuracy of their statements through an affirmation rather than swearing. But if you have to perform a jurat, let's say, that's part of the certification. And if they're not willing to affirm to the accuracy of their statements, you're not notarizing it. You can't certify something that didn't happen. And of course, this really means that notaries are administering oaths and affirmations in the first place, so that they could even have the possibility to say no. Some notaries just kind of gloss over that and they don't actually administer that part of it. But that's what when you signed that certificate, that's what you certified, that they signed in front of me and they took an oath or an affirmation in front of me. And if they say no, then that certification is inaccurate. Don't go forward.
Yep. And so I think two things are either happening there. Number one, if somebody is not willing to swear or affirm to the accuracy of their statements, that is a red flag.
Yeah.
The other thing, and probably the more common, is in the presentation of the oath. So how it's coming across or how smooth it's going. So I recommend that you create a script surrounding this that is the same for every loan signing appointment. So it sets the expectations. The one I use in my Sign and Thrive course sets the expectations here. This is why I'm here. And then I administer an oath kind of in that as well. And it just helps things go a lot more smooth and efficient. Carol, I know you have your own script for the oath as well in your course, right?
I do. I had an attorney give this to me many, many years ago when I think it was when I was actually in escrow, and I've used this same one, and it's excellent. It's right to the point, short and sweet. I always have people raise their right hands too. I think it denotes the importance, the seriousness of what they're doing. I want people to understand when I'm giving them an oath, they're telling the truth. They're swearing that they are telling the truth or affirming that they're telling the truth.
Love it. Sylvie, second question. Do we have somebody trying to break in here?
I'm sorry, Bill, it's Lori. I had a question in regards to the oath. If I understand correctly, Laura said that if it is an oath, there's nothing to sign or there is no notarial language. But my state requires that we have a notarial statement. That's like one of the 7 things that must be on our for our notarizations. So is there like a stamp or something that I can purchase that says an oath was given and not like a jurat?
So the example I gave where there was nothing was a verbal oath before giving testimony. Mm-hmm. And so you would not be, there'd be no document to affix your stamp to. So there isn't any need for that. If you have a document where the oath is on a paper, and then they just have a signature line, what I want you to understand is that you could have the venue right on top, state of, county of, and then the wording of the document becomes the notarial statement, because oaths and affirmations are not mandated language in any state. There is no specific certificate language. It's whatever is appropriate to that particular signing. And so then if you stamp and sign, you've got your signature, you've got your stamp, you've got your venue, and your body or statement of particulars becomes the document. And if you have something like that you're not sure about, one, you could probably call one of us. You can call the hotline so that it's clear, because you know what? It does take practice to get that. And if you're not sure, I know that in California, we're told, you know what? Treat it like an affidavit, which means slap a jurat on it. If you see an oath somewhere in that document, you probably can't go wrong with attaching a jurat if you've got to have certificate language.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great question. Okay, so Sylvie's second question. Another thing that I thought was clear to me, but I realized I may have not understood, is our role as a notary is not mainly to identify the signature, but to validate the identity. So I was always looking to confirm the identity of the signer with an ID that has a signature, but really the signature is only one factor to use to confirm ID. Is that correct? Meaning a valid ID without a signature is as good.
Depends on your state, right? That's very state specific. There are states that accept identification that does not have a signature on it. And you're right, even in the states like my own, where I have a specific list of what I can take, the signature is only one of the things I use to identify that this is the person who was in front of me. The photograph, a physical description, these are other factors that I put together with the person in front of me.
Excellent.
Anybody else want to add?
Carol, anything to add to that?
No, just that there's a lot of components that make up what's in an identification, such as Laura said.
Yeah.
Their physical description, their photograph, their signature. Obviously, if you've got somebody sitting in front of you who's 30 years old and it says he was born in 1923, you got a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one important fact too. You got to actually look at that. And that, I remember my first few signings, I was just looking at it because it was just like, oh, I don't know what I'm looking at here. But you really have to get into that and make sure it matches. The other thing is too, there's a big difference between loan signings and like general notary work when it comes to the signature. On loan signings, the lenders are really particular about signatures sometimes. So we're really paying extra hard attention. So you're probably hearing a lot of, or you're hearing us talk about signatures so much. But on the general notary work side, the actual signature, it might be an indicator just to make sure that they're who they say they are, so you can tell a difference, but you can ask them a question. Why is your signature different now? You can have those questions. But the lender side are the ones that kind of jam us up a little bit and bring our focus into the signatures for loan signings.
There is one thing that came up the other day. I was talking to one of my students because they had a situation. If you ever get yourself into a situation where you have what you think is a fraudulent identification, such as a driver's license, and there's certain things that you can look at. I have that. I have a lot of stuff that I've seen over the years that you got to watch for. But if anybody out there ever gets themselves into a situation where you're alone with people or someone in a home and you feel that you have somebody presenting fraudulent ID and you feel threatened, my suggestion is that you make sure you get a photograph of that identification, notarize it if you have to, if you feel threatened, and then get the heck out of there and go directly to the police department. Because you don't ever want to take a chance. I have one time, and I did share this story a long time ago, where we dealt with a situation that with these people that were very dangerous. And I didn't get involved with them personally, but I heard, all about it, and it's really scary. So always safety first.
Absolutely. Safety first. We're not law enforcement officers. It's not worth putting your life on the line. But then just report it as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Tarsha, I see your hand up. I'm going to get to you right after question 3 here with Sylvie. So Sylvie says, please explain what a punched driver's license is. I may just learn that it's a driver's license with holes in it, which would make it invalid. So you cannot use it as a valid ID. I had never heard of this. And I remember one occasion when I used one as an expired ID. Again, Laura, would you say this is state specific, or are all states across the board?
No, it is state specific. California specifically in their DMV code indicates that once it's punched, it makes it invalid, even if the year hasn't passed yet. And as a notary, we can't use it. But there are some states that describe their ID cards differently than we do. And so you may have states where it's still acceptable to utilize. I mean, we have states that say use something like they were going to cash a big check. That's all the direction they get. So in that case, that might be just fine. So it is state specific.
All right, excellent. And then Tarsha, just like I promised, we are going to you next. So I'm going to unmute you, and you are free to ask your question.
Okay. My question is, if you're in South Carolina, can you sign for a California document?
So Tarsha, you're in South Carolina. You're wondering if you can do a loan signing appointment for a home that is in California. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Carol, what do you think?
Yeah, I have students all over the country Many of them are in attorney states. They are able to handle any property transactions that are within any state other than their own. If he's in South Carolina, attorneys have to be a part of those transactions, but you can handle any property that's outside of the state of South Carolina, Georgia, New York. There's a number of states that are attorney regulated.
Yeah, there's a lot of murkiness and cloudiness in the attorney states. But typically, I mean, if the property's not within your state boundaries, it's being regulated by a different state. So you'll be all right there.
And there's no reason for people to feel defeated because there's so much work. People are so transient. They're moving all the time. So there's always opportunities for people refinancing properties elsewhere other than where they live.
Yeah, and the other thing is the way those laws read, the attorney has to be present or involved in the transaction, and that level of involvement depends on the state that they're in. Sometimes they function almost like a closing agent or an escrow officer does on the West Coast. So they're doing stuff behind the scenes. They're the ones moving the money, and then we are just gathering signatures. So there's all kinds of different interpretations about how that works too.
And they do hire notaries to do that work for them.
Do, exactly. Attorneys hire signing agents to do this work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have worked with several attorney offices. So thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Tarsha. Thanks for raising your hand. All right, let's get on here. Now I can't see. Tara says, what kind of scheduling do you do to balance everything that you do? I'll jump in here on this one. I'll tell you right now, guys, that being a full-time mobile notary and loan signing agent is difficult to balance your day because your phone rings basically from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the loan signing side, and it can ring anytime for general notary work. So it's really, it takes a lot of conscious effort to balance your day. That is why I'm such a huge proponent of early mornings. When I first started doing early mornings, I was not a morning person at all. I owned a poker league. I was out partying until 1 or 2 in the morning. I did not want to wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning to do my work. But making that decision changed everything. That quiet of the morning allowed me to do everything that I needed to do to work on my business. Like the marketing, the connections, the top of mind work, Facebook posts, writing a blog article, whatever it is that I was doing, that's how I got that stuff done. And then I could spend my day working in the business, doing signings and making money as well. That's one thing I do. Laura, what about you? You have a lot going on as well. How do you manage your day?
It's a challenge. I got to tell you. One of the things I do is I start my day early. That if I start my day early, then there are a lot of things I can either get off my plate, move on to somebody else's plate, or even just organize what I intend to accomplish that day. And then that's my list. This is what I'm going to be doing. And that one thing for me every morning to have intention with what I plan for my day helps me. If I just get up and the first thing I look at is, okay, I got to show up at this appointment, and I start going and I don't know what the rest of my day looks like, it's going to be a mess, a hot mess.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, if you're hustling, like right now, we're in this busy time frame. So if you're out there working, you will work all day long, and then you will not do what needs to be done to create sustainability in your business. And missing one day, not a huge deal. But one day turns into 2 really quickly, and 2 days turns into a week, and a week turns into months. And suddenly the market slows down and you haven't been doing any of your marketing, none of your relationship building, and your phone stops ringing. What do? You have to start from scratch, whereas you could have been building all of this up to manage this. The other thing is time blocking during whatever times you have really helps out too, guys, without multitasking. It's hard to not multitask in our industry, but if you wake up early enough or you stay up late enough, however you decide to do it, blocking time where you're just doing one task at a time really helps move the needle on your important products or projects. Carol, any other feedback that you had from when you were out running around hustling in Arizona and California?
No, Thank goodness those years are behind me, but because it wore us out. But no, just being organized, spending a lot. I'm a night person, so there were many years when I would be up in the middle of the night. I still am at times if I have a project or something I want to do. That's my time. I'm not a good multitasker. And by the way, they say most people are not multitaskers. They fail horribly.
Yeah, lots of new science supporting that as well. Great question, Tara. All right, Guy says often when I download docs from a signing service or title, it opens in Edge, even though I started with Chrome. Unlike Chrome, Edge's print function doesn't print by PDF page size, at least not that I have found. Is there a workaround for this issue? I'm using Brothers Dual Tray PDF printers. I left Guy's email address here. If there's anybody with some technical knowledge that surpasses Carol, Laura, and I, please reach out to Guy. I know he'd really appreciate a workaround for this. And I know many people struggle with all the different softwares that have to talk to each other to get the printing done correctly. All right, T says, once and for all, is it against the law to take or make copies of military IDs? Laura, I love your email that you sent over to me with the actual federal mandate for this. Would you mind talking about this?
Yeah, I didn't keep a copy because I just sent it to you, but Title 18, and then there's whatever the subsections are, indicates that it is illegal to make copies of any military IDs, common access cards, any of those. So don't do it. It's illegal, just don't do it.
And it's interesting because a lot of even the military personnel that hold those cards, they don't realize, a lot, especially like the families, they don't realize that you're not supposed to make copies of them. So they'll say, go ahead. But it's important to know that you cannot do that. Once and for all, that is the answer. All right, Terry says, I had an inquiry regarding someone who wanted a notary to swear her in for a divorce. That would have been today, this morning, Tuesday. The details were a little confusing. Can you please confirm if this is something that a notary will do with the individual in person as a sworn statement or an affidavit? For me, I'm trying to understand the difference between the two, and more importantly, know if notaries are allowed to perform them. She lives in Florida. Laura, can you help us out?
Well, yeah, it just depends on what the customer or client needed. One, that would be another example of an oath that's given before she was going to proceed with those divorce proceedings. And so, yes, notaries in the state of Florida are authorized to administer oaths and affirmations. And that's more likely what was probably going to happen if she was going to be appearing telephonically, meaning by telephone, she was going to be giving testimony, or she was going to be filmed for a deposition. The alternate would have been if she had a document presented to you that she was signing, then that was more likely to be a jurat.
Beautiful. Fernando says, I've signed up and sent emails to so many agencies that I don't know who's who at this point. Now I'm receiving texts from random numbers asking me to click on links to reply to the notification request. From your experience, can these links be trusted? The ones from SnapDocs say so, and I wasn't too worried about that link. But some are from unknown sources. The links are funny looking. The time is always TBD, and they seem to always be for the same day. That just has scam written all over it to me. Am I overreacting? Carol, is he overreacting?
No, go with your gut.
Love it. Laura, what about your experience?
You know what? I'm seeing more and more scam type emails with information that makes it look like it's an assignment, and it's not. I don't click on links when they look suspicious to me. When I don't recognize, who it is, I will actually go to another tab and start researching who they say they are to see, are they a real business? Does this person's name show up in their directory? So I do a little bit of work anytime I suspect. Trust your gut. If your gut says this doesn't look good, don't do it.
Love that. I totally agree. I do not click on links from untrusted sources.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah says, do you prefer to notarize each acknowledgement and jurat when you come across them during a signing? Wait till the end? Or do you do them while the borrower is filling out other paperwork? Carol, what do you think?
I think you should do them one at a time in front of the signers. You always want to stamp it and sign it in front of the signers. I have been seeing and I've been hearing a lot of people that are taking shortcuts that they should not be taking. This is something that's important. It's the law. You need to sit there and fill out your journal and your certificates and make sure that you sign and stamp in front of the borrowers. Period.
Yep. Totally agree. Remember that a notarization is also for the protection of the consumer as well. So they get the right to watch you do that in front of them. And it's usually mandated by law. Laura, anything else to add on that?
I agree. The journal, you can move around and wait to the end, start at the beginning, go in and out, backfill when you have time. But the certificates need to be done as they appear in the package.
Beautiful. Rob says, do you monitor phone for new signings during a signing appointment, especially when you are slow and need some appointments? Or do you give the signing 100% of your attention and check your phone after the appointment? Carol, I know we have differing opinions on this one. I'll let you go first.
Oh, no. I over the years, I've been, what I've been doing for years is shown to be successful. I think that you need to be very conscious of how you treat the people that you're with at a signing. But I've always said that it's no problem when you walk in and you show them your phone and you say, this is the lifeline to my work. This is how I earn my living. And if it's all right with you, I would like to keep this phone near me. If I get a phone call from a company knowing that they're wanting to hire me, I will only take 30 seconds just to get the information, say yes or no to them. And I have never once in the hundreds of times that I have done that had anybody say, they're always so happy. Oh, absolutely. No. If that's how you earn your living, no problem. Never had a problem. I've had students call me and say, I did it. And I actually got a phone call and everybody's happy. So yes, I'm all for doing that.
And
I know a lot of people disagree, but not me.
I think there's a way to do it well and then a way to not do it well, for sure. And I think it comes to relationships. If you've got the personality that allows for those types of conversations, it could go really well. If you don't have the personality to pull that off, it could backfire on you a little bit. The mindset I have is whoever I'm with gets 100% of my attention. So I don't like to answer my phone unless, there's something weird. And I usually say if the escrow officer calls, I may have to pick it up, if it's pertaining to their appointment. But I don't take leads. Now, what's interesting is we're kind of coming into this technological age where there's a lot of ways to automate your responses.
Right.
So now you can have voicemail, you can have phone trees that route to a voicemail that gives specific instructions. I'm with a client, but I will return your call, or press 2 if you want to talk to somebody, and they have an answering service, and it's super cheap. Sometimes it's a penny a minute now for some of these companies. And then text messaging, they've got this whole automated system now. So you can have a robotic conversation that just lets people know that you're in an appointment right now. Maybe there's some preliminary questions and we can answer like that. There's so many cool things that exist out there that I think we're kind of moving into an age where it might be okay to give 100% of the attention to the borrower. But again, I think it's also personal preference.
Back then, we're not talking about my phone ringing 5 times or 10 times during a signing. I was darn lucky to get one phone call.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So.
Yeah. Laura, how about you?
Yeah, what you finished with, Bill, is what I was going to add, which is I do monitor the phone, and any call, business or not, I have 3 text responses. So if I recognize, hey, this is a hiring company, I hit the text that's appropriate to them. And if it's anybody else, I hit a different text message that goes right back to them that says, I'm with a client right now. I'd like to get back to you as soon as I can. Please give me a moment to do that. And those who respond back to that, usually it's general work, they will respond back to my text right away and say, okay, when you have time, this is what I'm looking for. So I'm able to respond without answering the phone.
Love it. And if you ever have any question about what the right thing to do is, think about what you would do, or what you wouldn't mind experiencing. If it's no big deal to you, then you can probably pull off that conversation. If it is a big deal to you, and that's something, your time is what you honor there, and you expect full attention, then that's how you're going to come across. So don't try to do it any other way. That goes down to authentic. Just be you.
And I'm the kind of person that will get very excited if some young person were sitting there in front of me doing their job and had an opportunity to get another job. I would be excited as they are.
Love it. So Shelby says, I'm a new loan signing agent. I sometimes receive loan assignments for a company, but the majority of the time they are cash out loans in Texas. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to accept them because they must be done at an attorney's or a title office. All the time, the notification will say, don't reply if you can't provide an office at an attorney or a title company. What's the best way to go about to try to secure an attorney or a title office? So I'll jump in here a little bit just because I've got lots of students that are in Texas, and the key is to, and if you're in Texas and you have suggestions, please put them in the chat window too, but build these relationships ahead of time. Don't wait until you get the order. Have a couple locations set up in different parts of your town or your city so you have a resource to go to and you're not scrambling at the last minute. It is difficult to find these, but they do exist. There are companies out there that will rent you their conference room or a little office so you can perform these signings. Carol, Laura, any of you have some experience or suggestions?
Well, I've been dealing.
That's not a. Oh, I'm sorry, Carol.
Okay, I've been dealing this for years. We have so many students in Texas, and it's really a bummer because most of these companies, like the lawyers, they're afraid that they're going to take on some liability. Yeah. So they have to, when they go in and talk to attorneys or title companies aren't real happy to have them there because they have their own in-house people. Right. So they're not real willing to open up their conference rooms really often. But the thing is, mostly I think that they need to approach people and let them know that you don't have any liability here. All I need is a space just so that we can meet the requirements of the law. I've had, people bringing in muffins and, little baked goodies and things like this several times, not just once, but going in there, have you changed your mind? Is it okay? And explaining the fact that there's no liability to them. And finally, they are able to get some, but it's really hard for them to do.
Yeah, and just to clarify, guys, I see the comments in the chat. Thank you for that. But in Texas specifically, this is just a Texas rule, no other state. The office has to be a title office or a lawyer's office for a cash out refinance. So the rented rooms and things like that in places that are not lawyers and not title companies will not fit the legal requirement. Laura, you were going to say something on that.
I just want to say, even though that's not a requirement for me in California, when I chose to have an office, mine is in an attorney's office. Yeah. So I rent space inside of an attorney's office so that if something did come up that I needed that kind of space, which I do trust work in that space, then I was already set. So I would suggest that if there's any way to, again, as Carol talked about, renting space, and I don't mean just like, I want to use your space, just when it comes up. I guess the thing is investing in that relationship as well as, you know what, maybe that space isn't doing anything and I'm willing to pay an ongoing fee whether or not I use it. You know what I'm saying? So bring something to it, not just want to, I only need it for this time, so I just want to pay for that time. You need to bring something more. That's
a great suggestion. So instead of being transactional, you're doing a long-term relationship.
Right.
Having access, maybe it's like a subscription where you pay him a certain amount every month, and then you can do as many signings as you need to do there. There's usually a fee. I've seen fees anywhere from $50 to $75, even $100. Somebody said they had to pay once for a room. And that's usually paid by the borrower or the signing company who's ever hiring you. So that's not out of your, if they're paying you $70 for the signing, you don't have to pay $50 of that to the room space. That'll be a fee above and beyond your signing fee. All right, Louisa says, number 1, Florida. I was presented with a foreign language document. It was Haitian, so it was in French. It was about a power of attorney. I read in the Florida Notary Handbook that we can notarize the signatures as long as the notary certificate was in English. I refused the notarization because I did not know how to handle the situation. Laura, how's that sound?
Yeah, so as long as you can communicate with your signer, you can notarize a foreign language document. However, you need to have the ability to at least tell if it's complete, because that's a requirement for notaries. So if you can tell that there are blank spaces or missing pages, the numbers at the bottom, then I would go ahead with it as long as I can speak with my signer. Then when it comes to your certificate, if your state does not specifically tell you, you have to use your state language. It does in California, I have to use my state certificate. Then your certificate just needs to be in English, but make sure it doesn't ask you to certify anything that is not allowed in your state. And that's why I always best practice recommend don't just use any English translation, always attach your own state language to it to ensure you are not certifying something that is against the law for you.
Great suggestion. Question number 2 from Louisa. I have been sent assignments for reverse mortgages. What documents need to be notarized? I wanted to make sure we included this in there because I'm sure there's some cloudiness around reverse mortgages too. And I think Carol and I, we both have reverse mortgage training courses within our modules within our programs. So to specifically say which documents are notarized, it's a little difficult because it could be whatever the lender throws in there. But there's standard documents too. You're going to have some type of mortgage or deed of trust. You're going to have several affidavits. It's very similar paperwork in some regards to a forward mortgage with some obviously key differences as well. I recommend just getting training on those so you are familiar with those. There's a great niche market for these reverse mortgages, especially when you have some specialization around it and you know how to walk a senior, because they're reserved for seniors, when you can walk them through the process. Carol, do you have anything else to add on the reverse mortgages?
Well, the only thing that makes it really unusual is that there's 2 HUD settlements, and there's 2 deeds of trust. No, not HUD settlement. 2 deeds of trust and 2 notes. And the originals actually go to the lender, one to the lender and one to HUD. I believe it's because something happens to the first lender if they end up going out of business or something. HUD is in a position to be able to take over the loan. They have all the original documents. That's part of it. But yeah, typical documents, nothing extraordinary to be notarized.
Definitely worth getting your specialized training on though. Diana says, I'm a notary in the state of California. When completing my journal for a single loan signing, what fee amount do I put down for each notarial act? I understand that an entry is required for each signature being notarized, but I'm confused about what fee amount needs to be listed. Laura, Carol, can you answer that for Diana?
Well, it's the notary fee, whatever that notary fee is here in California, $15 per signature.
Laura, do you do the same thing?
So I start with 15 for each signature until I run out of money. So basically, if I'm paid $100, I'm going to put 15 times 6, that's $90. Then I'll put 10. Now I'm at $100. And then if I still have more notarizations to perform, I put 000 for the remainder. So I use up all of the money and I allocate it towards the notary fee. I personally do that because for me, it's the right thing to do based on my age and I have a W-2 job and I take the exemption for the self-employment tax. Now, if that's not right for you, then you might want to do something else. But I like to allocate all of my money that I can. And if like I said, if I run out of that money, then it's zeros for the rest of it.
Beautiful.
And
the reason for that is the tax deductions.
It is, and that tax
deductible money.
Self-employment tax exemption, which is about 6.5%, is not necessarily appropriate for all taxpayers. Some people are young and this is all they're doing, and they may not have enough Social Security credits that they want to earn. There's lots of reasons why that may not be what you want to do, but Diana, I know you, and it would probably work for you just fine.
Beautiful. The other thing is too, the journal is not necessarily for bookkeeping either. That's just
Right.
record keeping. So what you decide to do, if it's different in your bookkeeping and your tax reporting, that's okay too.
Mhm.
Diana, the follow-up question is same question for general notary work. Do I put down the notary fee I'm allowed to charge per notarial act?
Mhm.
Do I include any additional fees like the mileage and things like that in the journal?
Anything additional to the notarial fee really goes into whatever you're using to do your bookkeeping. So Notary Assist, Notary Gadget, Quicken, whatever it is you're using, that's where everything goes. And that's what you'll use for reporting income for tax preparation, not your journal. Just do not exceed 15 in any particular box if you're California or whatever your state is. And some states don't require you to record a fee at all. It's not one of the required elements, so you could just not worry about it at all.
Beautiful. Guys, that brings us right up to 9 o'clock. So I'm going to just stop sharing here. So great episode today. That was a lot of questions. We still have a ton more. So actually, there's still 31 more slide questions. So next week is going to be great as usual. And plus, we may have either a presentation or a special guest for next week. I'll announce that via social media and the email. Laura, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Carol, thank you so much for taking the time out of the busy end of month to be here with us. And guys, thanks for watching. This is I know I can speak for Carol, Laura, and myself. We love being here with you, and thank you for growing yourself and your business on a Tuesday. Enjoy your end of month.
Bye-bye.
Bye.